here from 2 Plus stuff. And if you see this like powerful light of the Lord next to my shoulder here, it's because I have my my light box open, and I'm going to be doing some pictures here today, and I'll show you what the pictures are of, and I'll share them on Instagram and Facebook and all kind of stuff like that. Tell me if the music is too loud. I just like to have something playing in the background just so we can all kind of chill and bust out your paints and paint along with me each and every week. I try to do a live stream every Friday about this time, 3 o'clock-ish, to try and catch some of my friends over in the UK, and also I'll just enjoy everyone here in America. I'm also on the West Coast, so it gets more reasonable of a time when people coming home from work and that kind of stuff as you go further east. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and start painting. I have something very fun to show you, and I hope that you all like it. So let me go to the downward cam here and adjust my light. You're rolling, Jack. I miss Afro Doug. Well, Afro Doug sweat too much because he got too hot, but he'll be back. Give him a month. My God, my hair grows so fast. Yeah. Well, I was gonna say that I had to have her like thin it out a little bit, but that's a sore subject for so many people. Okay. So I'm gonna pop here. So what I got basically to show off today are my bone splitters. These are the Savage Boar Boy Maniacs. So that means they have the double hand weapons, they get a lot of attacks, they get to pile in and attack twice on my turn, and yeah, they turned out pretty good. And like I said, I'll throw a bunch of pictures up on Instagram, and so I definitely want to show off what this can do. So basically, the vast bulk of these models were painted using contrast paints, but not just that, because this is the thing, as they were hyping up contrast paints to the extreme, one thing I tried to be very optimistic about was that and people said, I'm going to use them or I'm not going to use them. It's like, but that's not how it has to be. You can use them and then also use traditional painting methods on top of it. And so, I don't know, like peas and carrots. It's just, they go together so good. The orcs themselves, the skin is all contrast orc skin, which for some reason doesn't show up super well on cameras, but in person it looks really clutch. Like, I think cameras can't pick up the really distinct tones in green, but the human eye can, and so they look awesome. So yeah, like all the base stuff is contrast, but then I went back over and did Warboss green and Scarsnit green on all the muscle details and the facial details, and these guys are popping. They just look great. I'm actually going to try and get a second camera set up like in my light box so I can go to that and show off what I'm working on as I'm working on it. But basically, this is my test model that I did. I'm going to do this basing scheme. Like I said, can't see it super well now, but it is a ashy base where it's very ashy, dead earth. If you've ever been near a forest fire, the ash that comes down. And what I did was basically I used the Astrogrant texture paint, but I learned my lesson from Vince Ventrella when he was on talking about bases, about adding color. And so then I washed the whole thing with a red wash from Army Painter, and I built the color of ash back up with Dawnstone and a very light Celestar Gray. Put a Scorched Tuff from Army Painter down, and then, like he said, put a wash in it to make it match the ground. It looks really, really good. It'll show up when I do the final pictures. So that's what we're going to do today. I have my test model here of the Big Stabba. He was the first one I did. And if you haven't seen kind of what I'm going for here, it is the Drakfoot War Clan, which is they're in Akshi. When they make their war paint that all bone splitters do, theirs come from like the blood-soaked mud of the earth. So they're almost cornate. They have a chance of not being affected by magic and stuff like that. And it's red war paint, which makes them unique because it made the skin really quick. And then I went back and spent that same time really building up the red highlights and stuff like that. So anyway, that's what I'm working on today. I would love to hear what you guys are all working on, and I will hop in the chat and just hear what you all have to say. So hello everyone, TG Disciple, Brian, Suds in a Bucket. I like that one. I'm just doing my dry brush. I already put the texture down and let the wash dry overnight. So I'm building the gray back up right now in case anyone's door. My Mornfang were featured on Beast Claw Raider Star Collecting Box. Oh yeah, like on the web store? No, not that I've ever seen. But I'd like to. That'd be cool. I should start, because you have to use like a special hashtag or something like that for them to catch it in their feed. I should definitely start using that. I was really hoping my Mana Core would, but there's a lot of conversion to what that was, and so I was like, that probably makes sense. Because it's not something they can really like sell to somebody. Which I understand. Jack, what makes them pile in and attack twice in your turn? It's on their War Scroll. Yeah, Phoenix Kelly, Ben Connor pointed out that on my turn, right, it's kind of like with shooting, right? It only happens on your turn. On my turn, after everyone is done fighting, I can select a unit of Boar-Boy Maniacs, and they can pile in and attack a second time. So they are the brutal side. If we're doing the Cunnin and brutal thing, they're the brutal side, whereas the Cunnins are the other Boar Boys who can retreat and charge. Right, that's their sneakiness, the hit and run tactics. But these guys get to pile in and attack twice. So yeah, let's see. Captain Smurfy wrapping up basing Stormcast at work. Very similar basing scheme to yours. Made mine to match your Clash mats. Ah, sweet. That's awesome. Just need to type in hashtag painting Warhammer and they might feature you. Okay, yeah, I'll do that. Basically, whenever I do Instagram posts, I tend to save time rather than writing out a bajillion hashtags. I like make pre-made like save profiles, so I might make one for like, here's my best effort at blank model. You know what I mean? That way I can just kind of fill in painting Warhammer. It makes it easier for me to remember. I'm bad at interneting. Generally, I forget to do a lot of things. Let's see. Adam Carr, what up, boys? I'm new to the channel. I just binned loads of AOS lore because I'm trying to get back into Warhammer Fantasy. Love the vids. Any advice on Sylvaneth Army comp? I'm completely lost. When you say comp, are you talking about like how to build a list, Adam? I'd love to help. We got a whole bunch of smart people here. One thing I'll say, I need you to explain what you mean by comp, but while you're writing that out, one thing I will say is that Sylvaneth is in a very strange place at the moment. And I'll just explain it, not knowing if you know about this, but basically the book, their new book, that was supposed to have a lot of updates and stuff like that, isn't really out yet. It got tied up in some customs hell coming out of its manufacturer location, from what I understand. And so they're in this weird limbo period where everyone knows that they're going to change, and the rule book got leaked, and there's this whole thing. You can find it online. But they're not. It's not official yet. So like, it's just kind of this weird place. So any advice we give you, which I would love to help you with, just understand it might change very soon. Whenever that limbo of customs, which is a nightmare. We got to go through that with the gaming mats that I used to sell, and it's just miserable. Schrodinger's battle tome, exactly. it is neither legal nor non-existent. Let's see, Torrentino. Hey, question for the chat. Heard from another channel that Spoilpox Scrivener doesn't affect plague drones. That seems wrong. Character effects hit riders and mounts, correct? They have the keyword plague bearer. I would have to check, but someone seems pretty confident in their answer. From what I understand, yeah, if something said affects Boar-Boy Maniacs, it would affect both of these. They both share the same commonality of keyword, but again, it depends on how it's all worded. So, question for you, Doug. I'm going to start. Oh, hold on. Another question came in and just bumped it up. Question for you, Doug. I'm going to start making YouTube videos soon. About to get back into the hobby, and I'm curious about which webcam, overhead cam, and microphone you would recommend. Okay, so I can do that. My microphone is a Blue Yeti. It's a big old honking thing, but you can get them pretty cheap on Amazon, about $80-$90 depending on if there's a sale. Mounts and accessories are pretty easy to get for them, which is what I like. And it's just it's a USB microphone. Just plug it in, let it rip, and I love the simplicity of it. Yeah. As far as webcams, I use a Logitech. I don't know. Let me Let me pull up my thing and get the exact info for you. Let's see, where is it at? Home, devices. So it is a Logitech Pro Webcam C920, and I actually have two of those identical ones. And what I did was I set it up with my software, my broadcasting software, so that I have camera 1 and camera 2. And then there's a third camera where I do a screen share, and I put myself in the bottom right corner. So that's it. And they are not super expensive cameras. Everything here is pretty low budget because I value all of my patrons' donations, and I try to be very reasonable and measured in how I spend that kind of stuff. So, but good luck on your YouTube channel, man. Yeah. And I understand that, like, I accrued those things slowly over 3 years, so don't feel like you have to go buy something. If you're going to prioritize, microphone is prime number 1. Don't worry about cameras yet. The problem is I find most channels that start off small, like, they don't focus on audio enough, and audio is everything, especially in this hobby when we're just sitting and chilling and painting. So yeah. Let's see. Adam Carr, yeah, basically composition. I know about the whole China issue, all right. Heard they can be a little tough, which doesn't scare me at all. I like a challenge, but jumping off point for a list, I suppose. I'll be honest, I don't know a lot of Sylvaneth players. Shu from Rerolling Ones busts his out sometime, and he has terrific luck with a, I think he's a Tree Lord Ancient. We don't have, Jackson in the chat, he can correct me. I don't think we have like a local Sylvaneth hero that I can like tell you what I've seen. The last time I went to an event, you know, there was a Sylvaneth player there, but he was very clear that, like, I mostly play 40k, and this is just stuff I had laying around, so I don't know. I know that there are several battalions that people like to take, where you can get your army to be a 1-drop, and that kind of gives you a little bit of control early game in terms of, you know, deciding who goes first or second, that kind of stuff, and that's super important. If anyone in the chat knows more about Sylvaneth, which hopefully, because I know nothing, go ahead and just type in what you know about Sylvaneth, and so we'll be able to see that over on YouTube. Thank you so much. Let's see. I'm just trying to see here. Took your advice on theming army, and it does bring a lot of character to the hobby. Yeah. Feels less like I'm playing with plastic and more like I'm forging a narrative. Great advice and vids. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, that was oh man, the interview I had with Mark from Digital and Dice was absolutely a ton of fun, and a lot of people have had just a tremendous amount of feedback about that. Of just like, you know, we kind of get in the mindset of how writing a story for an army has to be this big thing, because we see at events where like some people go nuts and they like, you know, write books and age the paper and just kind of go extreme with like the level of detail they throw and stuff. But it's like, no, just build it piece at a time, ask a lot of questions of yourself and of your characters, and all of a sudden you have a whole little, you know, world. And it's like, oh, that's cool, I like that. Let's see. Brian Cheney, Frank Van, we'll meet up in Mox Bellevue one of these days. Sweet, I would love that. Love it, love it. Yeah, last night, I was supposed to go to game night last night, and I got stuck way behind. So basically, I live in an apartment complex, and like, it's at a corner, so I technically have 2 exits, but there was a huge car accident at the corner, and there was like 3 ambulances and a fire truck. I don't actually know what happened. They definitely hit a light pole, so traffic was miserable, and so I really couldn't get out of my house until like almost 7, so I was like, I'm not gonna go. I mean, it isn't pretty early on. I was like, I'm not just gonna sit there at the end of my own parking lot for an hour and a half trying to get out of here, so just decided to hang out and stay in, crank out some boars. Let's see. Tristan Gray just finished a Seraphon commission, used washes for the first half, then contrast for the second. Oh, that sounds cool. Yeah, one thing that this whole process made me want to do is experiment more with washing, like priming them white, washing it, so you get like a faint tone, and then doing contrast over it. So as the contrast pulls away from the upper parts and sits into the recesses, whatever your base wash or glaze or whatever you want to use kind of pokes through just a little bit. I think that sounds awesome. Let's see. Didn't know there was a WhatsApp. There's only one GW here in Ireland. All of Ireland, there's a one GW. My gaming group is all 40K, so iOS is a whole new world for me. Oh, that's awesome. Well, welcome to the whole new world. There has to be more than one GW in all of Ireland. I mean, I know when I say that it makes it sound like a big country, but I know it's not. But I mean, still, I've got like 4 in the greater Seattle area. That's ridiculous. Anyway, I'm done. And rant over. Ralph, question for you, Doug. What kind of support do you use for the overhead cam? It is a Smatree, Smatree. Sorry, I'm going to have to read it because it's upside down because the way it's holding the camera. It's just basically a clip with a webcam mount on the end of it. So what I do is I clip it onto the back of my desk, camera comes out, screw it in there, and then point the camera down. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Let's see. I'm just catching up. Y'all are being great. Thank you so much for helping Adam with getting caught up with the Sylvaneth book stuff. Hilario is usually a must-have with the current book. I did. You dig the Drycha new rules? Yeah, honestly, like Sylvaneth is one of those factions that, because the model's so spindly, I tend to not like models that are spindly. Like for some reason, I don't really like playing Nighthaunt. But Drycha and the Spite Revenants have always been models that when I look at them, I'm like, I would love an army of just that. And I mean, that might happen because now you have this 1,000 point format, which we'll see. I'm going to wait and see how much that really takes off. But yeah, I don't know. That's one of those things, like it's a very small army of list of models that from that faction that I really would love to paint one day, but Drycha just looks incredible. She's just a woodland dreadnought. Which is the coolest thing. Let's see. Hope to make it down to Mox tonight with my Flesh Eater Court list. Sweet. You'll probably take the cake because a lot of us just show up to laugh and giggle. I know local player Rick, who is awesome, he has a 1,000 point Gloomspite Gits, and he doesn't win much, but every single game with Rick is an absolute blast. So. That Big Boy's looking good. Thank you so much, Librarian of Hope. Let's see. Haven't had much exposure to the whole AOS community at all because there's one GW store on Island. Yeah. I saw that earlier. I must be behind on my comments. I must have read that out of order. Cody Bennett. Hey, Doug. Just finished a podcast while doing my Death Guard army. It crucially helped me develop lore. The story behind them. Sweet. Yeah, that's the cool thing is it was AOS focused for sure, but it was certainly everything there could apply to 40K as well, or just role-playing games. I mean, which I've, like I said in that video, never did. And I'm actually going. Very excited. I'm gonna take some pictures of it. But me and Mark are gonna go play a game tomorrow. So I think I know he plays Death stuff, and so I will be there. With my Stormcast, I don't have enough Bone Splitters built yet. Unfortunately, I have a lot of troops, but no heroes built. Yeah. Which will change pretty quick. Sweet. Okay, give me 1 second to grab black. It never fails whenever I need the paint. It's never there. Let's see. Oathstone, Doug, are there any models you would want to paint, but you won't get to because you don't want to get the rest of the army? Yeah, I do tend to paint in projects, so I don't like painting just random one-off models. I would rather paint a small army. And there are certainly, like, for example, a Slan from Seraphon. Sorry, I was looking for my brush. Slan from Seraphon is definitely on that list. I think it's a great model. What else? Sorry about that. I'm just looking for something. Okay, sorry. Yeah, Slam would definitely be one of those things. Drycha is a great example of something like that. Those are the big ones, honestly. Most everything else, you know, with the number of factions that I've tried, I've built and painted most of it all. Here we go. Just need something to put the slick bases on. Basically, I'm going to do the black trim on the bottom of them all now. So I'll use this mini core book to do that. Okay. Ken, it's interesting to they have meeting engagements just released and Warcry is coming very soon. Very different but skirmish types of AOS. Yeah, I mean I certainly think the size of Warcry is going to be significantly smaller, at least in terms of models. You know, terrain is a different story, but then meeting engagements. I'll tell you what, I have to fight really hard to wait for Warcry. Like for some reason lately, I just really want to just do warband games. Like I was looking at maybe like Shadespire or Necromunda was one I was asking about heavily. But I have to keep telling myself like, no, don't buy into anything yet. Like you know you want to play Warcry because it's, you know, part of this universe. So is Shadespire, but I don't know. So I'm trying to hold off. Anyone in the chat, do you play Necromunda or Shadespire? Do you enjoy those games? What do you like about them? But yeah, all the skirmish stuff coming out pretty soon. I'm very, very excited about. Just makes it easier, and I like quicker games. But yeah. Did you guys all watch Uncle Adam's video he released today? He did a great interview with Dave and Matt from Mini Wargaming. Nope, haven't watched it yet. I've been running errands all morning. Had breakfast with a friend. I get to mooch off his breakfast. Let's see. Hey, you. I'm about halfway through painting a Stormcast army for my husband. Sweet. He hates how gold the vanilla army is, so they have been lacquered. They have a lacquered blue Space Marine vibe to them with silver trim. Oh, that sounds awesome. Blue and silver, I love that combination. Let's see. I think Warcry is the safest bet. Terrain and models will spill over to AOS. In the end, the door is supposed to swing both ways. That's true. That's true. I have no doubt that the models there will be a part of AOS. They just, oh my gosh, they look so killer. I just really want to focus on smaller projects that have a lot more character. You know, I mean, as much as I love this army, I love the Stormcast, I love my Bone Splitters, but I don't know. Yeah, I just saw folks playing Necromunda the other day, and I thought no one played Shadespire near me, but apparently I'm very wrong. There's actually a significant number of Shadespire players in our area. I just never knew. And so I was like, that's cool. Like one of my biggest complaints was like, one, I refuse to buy into a game that I can't play anyone against. Okay. Oh, I know it's pronounced lacquer. I know. I'm just playing with you. Liqueur. Because it makes it sound fancy. Let's see. James, cannot wait for work hard myself. An interview from Tabletop Minions was awesome. Sweet. I'll have to give that a watch. You know, like people who do online content all have different skills, and I have always found that Uncle Adams, his interview potential is just untapped. He doesn't do enough of them. He's so good at just driving a conversation, asking interesting questions, that kind of stuff. So yeah. Let's see. Brian asks, has anyone heard about the terrain rules and gnaw holes? Well, I mean, have they changed anything? No. However, they did do a Warhammer like Twitch like live stream thing when they were talking about the GHB, and basically everyone on the stream said just ignore the terrain rules for right now. I think it just is very clear that it needs to be addressed in an FAQ, and so that means for the most part just kind of ignore that page. In fairness, I'm not quite sure why it needed to be there in the first place, but you know, it's whatever. That's my understanding so far. Let's see. Chris had 2 games of Shadespire, and I love it, even though I got curb stomped both times. That, yeah, tends to happen when you start playing a game. I'd be interested to try it again. The big thing that turned me off from it when it first came out was the deck building element to it. I just don't typically have the mind for that kind of stuff, for deck building. That's why I don't do Magic. But, you know, at this point, there's enough resources online of people playing the game that can kind of give you pointers and that do that kind of stuff. And also, like, net listing looks different when there's an actual component to moving models, so I don't feel like that's even a thing with that game. No one seems to complain about it, so anyway. Let's see. Librarian of Hope. If I ever buy it, would you like the non-Night Haunt stuff? What? I'm not sure what you're talking about, Librarian of Hope. The like Carriage Overlord deck in Spanish. That's super funny. Let's see. Shadespire is fun, but it's its own game for sure. And that's exactly how I would approach it. Is like I just need a break from the big 2,000 point games, whatever. Because even like the meeting engagements, it still felt like I was setting up an entire miniatures game. You know what I mean? It wasn't quick and snappy. It was aggressive, but it wasn't. I don't know, a massive time saver. These are looking great. I am so excited to put these guys on the table. If you guys don't know, I used to have Bone Splitters, got rid of them, now I'm back into them. And the painting skill that I have come in the last, 2.5 years since I had them has improved dramatically. So I'm just very pumped that they look so much better. Thanks, Contrast Paints. It's not really the contrast, it just saved me time. It would have looked pretty much the same because I was going for that brighter green. Trying to get those bases to dry, and then I'm going to basically just be throwing on the tufts and adding just a little bit of wash on them to make sure that they stick. I did one here, and it turned out pretty good. You could probably go a little bit brighter with it, but I took Vince's suggestion where you put your tuft down, you do a wash, you kind of dig the wash into it with a brush you don't care about, and then dry brush it with a lighter color so it has like a full highlights and shade and everything like that, and it looks pretty good. Yeah. I for one praise our new contrast overlords. Librarian of Hope. I'll hold off. I'm gonna just decide once Warcry drops. I'll figure out what I want to do for a skirmish size game. The Rust Belt Blacksmith. Hey Doug, deck building isn't that bad. There's 3 cards in every gang box. You have to buy 5 or 7 gangs to have a pool of cards worth using. Okay, well, that's not. I don't know. Yeah, it's not a bad investment in terms of like, because you get cool models and that kind of stuff too. So yeah. Let's see. Tab Hama contrast. Doug's confirmed sellout. Oh my god. So what I loved is I've just been loving this about YouTube lately. I'm watching the comments of other content creators. People who, people are searching the internet. What is contrast paint? So everyone, the search metric for like if you're a content creator trying to find, what to do content on, what are people searching for? Contrast is it, right? So people ask about contrast, and then creators respond by creating contrast-centered content. Right, here's a paint tutorial with this contrast stuff. And then the vitriol in the comments of those videos about how everyone who does that process that I just mentioned is a shill and a sellout. And it's just like, oh my God, everyone just chill. It's just paint, but it is paint that is a different process. So of course it just requires tutorials. It's just so funny to watch. Anyway, question. From Hugh, my fan-made chaos god character Hugh the Great Darkness Emperor is great human like demons, can use different types. What's your question, Hugh? You made a fan-made chaos god? That's cool. Go with it. Torrentina, sure contest is great, but the real and most important answer is, how does it taste? I don't know. Let's taste it. Like nothing. I took a micro dab of a Killian Green. Chalky. Let's see. I saw a guy buy the whole contrast test on Wednesday when I paid to pick up my black coach. Oh, the whole set. Yeah. All right. The only I was trying to think of paints that I want. So actually, this is actually a good example. So the bores here are 100% contrast paint with a slight dry brush, just to make the highlights pop. Because again, contrast is meant to be the wash and the base layer, but then everything you build on that just looks great. And so that's exactly what I did for the skin and the bores. Basically, what I did is I took like 4 contrast colors and rotated them on different parts of the bore. So like this guy is mostly Agros Dunes, and then the darker part on his bottom, like the underbelly where it would be shadowed, I watered down some darker browns and did that. And then obviously on this guy, it is Griff Charger Gray, Wildwood, here's Gore Grunta Fur, and then basically, so I did the main body one color, and then did like that little mohawk tuft that they all have. You can see like right above his head with a different one, and then just rotated across all of them, which colors are where and what they pair with. So I think they turned out great. There's enough variety visually in the unit to make them interesting. And it's all about, when you do that, all it comes down to is I just tried different colors to do the dry brush highlight, and they look great. All the skin is Fire Slayer flesh, which is one of my new favorite things. So yeah. Let's see. Tortino, God, it didn't actually taste. Oh, it was just, yeah. Sorry about that, Doug. Oh no, nothing to apologize. I just I didn't see a question, so I couldn't answer. But I'm glad you're enjoying making your own lore. That's awesome. Adam Carr, have to go to sleep for work tomorrow, but thank you so much for the advice. Doug, Tristan, and everyone else. Have a wonderful night, sir. Let's see. Doug, have you dry brushed over contrast paints? I don't have any myself, but I've heard dry brushing pulls the paint off. So here's the thing about contrast. I didn't mean for this to turn the whole discussion about it, but it needs to dry for much longer than your normal acrylic paint. They use a different kind of medium, and so it just requires more time. I had no problems with pulling it off with dry brushing whatsoever, but I also painted them. Like I let them, because it takes forever to dry, I let them sit overnight, and I came back and started hobbying the next day. So that's super important to remember. Now I did, so the riders, I didn't paint them with the riders on, they were separate. What I noticed was I still never dry brushed anything off, but say I painted the weapons and I held them like this to paint the feet. When I turned them back over, some of the paint had gotten rubbed off by my finger, and I think it has to do with the oils and the heat in your body more than like the scraping motion. So So just be careful of that. Like, and again, that's only because I had just painted them before. I didn't give it enough time to dry. Now that they've dried, I haven't had a problem with any one of them. Even just normal touches and stuff like that, I'll rub. This would be much harder than a brush would be, and it's just not doing anything. So, yeah, that's the thing. So you know how like if you're painting with a normal like layer paint, you put the paint on there and maybe like you blow on it or whatever like that, and basically it's dry in about 2-3 minutes. You need to treat these like a wash, where, you know, if you're watching the GW tutorials, it's more like 35 to 40 minutes let them dry. That is much closer to reality. So yeah, that's certainly what I would say. If someone dry brushed it off immediately, or someone dry brushed it off, I would say that they probably went straight from contrast to the dry brush without any time, and that just doesn't work. But anyway, let's see. Brutal Cuss 1. Contrast paint is amazing for horde armies. Painted 80 models Reichland style for my free guild. That is amazing. That's exactly what they made it for. Good to hear that. Dr. Zero, heyo. Let's see, I got my Chain Rasp Horde and 2 teams of Glaive Wraiths to basic level fast without it. Yeah, I mean, but different armies take paints differently. Certainly Free Guild requires a different level, a different kind of painting technique than undead stuff, for sure. Dino Cooper, hi, first time watching and painting along live. Your lore videos have helped me sell me on AOS World. Have you done any discussion on the Legion of Asgore units? Keep up the good work. I have not. Trying to think. Legion of Asgore, it's Chaos Dwarves, right? Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure someone will. But yeah, my understanding is that's some Chaosy dwarves. I haven't, honestly, so they haven't really done any lore for them, which is a bummer. I think, it's a real shame that Forge World models, man, they're so stinking cool, but there's just, the support on them is almost nil right now, and that's just a real bummer. Yeah, they are Forge World, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm thinking of the Chaos Dwarves, they are Forge World. But, yeah, I don't know. So that's kind of where they're at. Because I also think, like, you know, on my list of armies I want to do one day, someday, in the far-flung future, certainly on my list is a Tomarkin's Horde thing. Because I think that would just be so cool. Because he is an incredible model. Just very imposing looking. But before I do that, I definitely want to see some lore. I want them to bring him into that world, make him fit, that kind of stuff. So, thank you. Yes, it is Forge World. Okay. Let's see. Question, Doug. What's your opinion on the Tyranids Apocalypse box set? I just got the Tyranids Star Collecting box. You know, I don't cover 40K a ton, but let me look at what it is. I've actually, like, well, here's the thing. I always kind of want to have a 40K army just in the background, just so I can play with my friends. So I've been kind of, like, looking at it a little bit more and more lately. So let's see. Is that for pre-order yet? No, it is not. Because I think that one was just a bunch of big monsters, right? I mean, it depends on if you need big monsters, I would suppose. The Apocalypse sets are stellar deals for the most part. I saw like a Bella Lost Souls article where they kind of broke down the monetary value of all the sets. And I mean, that's helpful to a point, you know what I mean? Because some kits are debatable on whether or not their value is equal to the money it costs for them. So that's more of a personal question, but none of them seemed so outlandish. One that I was looking at was definitely the Tau set, because Tau is a cool army to me, but honestly, if I can't paint it with contrast and get it cranked to a battle standard quickly, I kind of don't want it. Because, again, it's simply for 40K, because I don't play it that often. I want it to be something that I'm not super invested in. As far as Tyranids go, I mean, if I was gonna play them, I would certainly be doing big old monster mash, huge monsters, that kind of stuff. So for that sake, I like it for sure. Let's see here. What I'm doing right now is just getting all the little grass tufts on everyone, and so then when that's dry, we can go back and get them cranked out. Okay. Big bugs. Yeah. Let's see. Oh man, it just got super sunny out in our glorious city. Yeah, weather's been kind of crazy the last couple of days in the greater Seattle area for sure. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I think quite a bit about playing 40k or just grabbing a small thing. I remember actually, Mark from Rerolling Ones reminded me that basically when I moved into this place, one thing that I was really excited to do was kill team battle reports. And I was like, man, I haven't thought about that in so long. I just got weighed down by other stuff. I was like, I need to get back into that. So I do like the 40k setting. I personally, I like the relentless grim darkness, like, and for that, like, Mechanicum it's pretty dark, you know, and they got dudes strapped into machines because it's a better computer. I don't know, I like that kind of stuff. That's my kind of, like, the dark type of fantasy, the dystopia that I like, so. Let's see. 40k, no. It's one of those things. It's a game system that I don't think I could keep up with. Everyone in our area, like, if it's not ITC, they don't care about it, and like that just doesn't fly with me, man. I'm here to make stories and play games. Like, I don't care about your rules and your objectives. Sphere says, hi Doug, possible new AOS player. Was thinking about making a Soulblight army made of converted Chaos Knights to represent Chaos Warband fallen through the Soulblight curse. That's awesome. Would this make sense lore-wise? Yeah, I mean, anyone can become a vampire. That sounds legit. Here's what I'll tell you as a possible AOS player. If you want it to be a thing, it will be a thing. And I mean that. The entire point of ditching fantasy battles to become what it is now was to make an expanded universe where you can make whatever possible. So dude, I think that sounds legit, because now you have a bunch of people who their allegiances have fundamentally changed from between serving chaos gods, that life was ripped away from them, and now they're in this weird place where they should be serving Nagash but don't want to, and I just like that kind of stuff. If it were in a book, I'd be like, heck yes. So yeah, dude. And I think Chaos Knights are a pretty fantastic kit if you're going to, you know, make like a Soul Blight model alternative, because obviously their kit's ridiculous. But yeah. I guess the reason I take a point to say that is because I get quite a few questions throughout the week on Instagram and Facebook of just like, hey, here's my lore idea. Is it canon, right? Does it work? And I understand that in fantasy battles, there definitely was a unified canon, but it's like, man, this is AOS. You can make what you want. And I love it. And yes, $100 for 5 models, which is what the technical Soulblight kit is it's a hard pill to swallow, especially when they're not like amazing models, you know what I mean? They're not mind-blowing in any way. They're good, they're cool. Let's see. Got to write some lore for my Daughters of Cain. Well, if you want some help with that, go check out the latest episode of Why Are We Forging. I had a dungeon master on, and he makes lore for his narrative games and that kind of stuff. So yeah. Let's see. Most people convert Dragon Knights into Blood Knights these days. That's true. The Dragon Knights, if you don't know, the Dragon Knights are like a old high elf kit, and their armor is more ornate, and it definitely has that. It's closer in vibe to the Soulblight kit, but I like the power stance, like the sheer like width and nastiness of the Chaos Knights. I mean, there's pros and cons to both. Fundamentally, neither one of them are the Soulblight kit, but that one's so expensive it's ridiculous. So pick whatever one's more important to you. Let's see. Sean Blake, love the podcast reboot. Thank you. Hope that you enjoy it. Torben, I believe how you say that. Glad to finally catch a live stream. Well, live. Keep up all your videos. Cheers from Denmark. Sweet. That's awesome. Yeah, I try to do these shows on Fridays a little bit earlier just to catch folks who are over in Europe. Yeah. And I always hope that I can catch more folks doing this kind of stuff. So thank you so much. Cheers from Seattle, Washington area. So at this point, what am I doing? Canada's waiting for these guys to dry, but I'll put them off to the side a little bit. I don't have a whole lot of real estate right now. I pulled my light box out to set it up, and now it's kind of in my way. But I do have 3 more big stabbas because I went crazy with them. And so now we're going to be painting on some orc skin. Let's do this. Yeah. Just curious what camera you're using. I am using, I said this before, what is it, a Logitech C920, something like that? It sounded like that. Danes Unite. I love it. Stabs are where it's at, Doug. Yeah, it's pretty much the only source of rend in the army outside heroes. By pretty much, I mean it is exactly that. Nazgub just lost a game. New GHB 19 Stormcast versus Gloomspite Gitz with my son. He plays Gitz while I try to catch up with his Stormcast 1250. That's funny. That's right. I forgot. For contrast, I typically use a bigger brush. Let's see. Give me 1 second. There we go. Hopefully Soulblight's next battle tome. Well, hopefully Sylvaneth is somewhere out of limbo. But yes, as far as the ones we don't know about, I would love it. For the next year, I'm always going to be wondering, like, was this supposed to be out now, or is this supposed to be out a few months ago because of the Sylvaneth backup? Let's see. Goats. Love the channel. Thank you for all you do. Thank you so much. It's very kind of you to say. Kevin Carpenter. I'm a new painter, and I had a perfectly painted unit of sequiturs last night. Forgot to thin my washes, and they look pretty bad now. I don't even know you were supposed to wash them or thin them. I typically don't thin my washes. I'm kind of curious as to what color you went with. That would make you go from loving them to not liking them at all. Like what color the wash was. For this, I for one am pretty sloppy when it comes to the contrast stuff, and That's a bonus that I get for bone splitters, right? It's mostly flesh, so basically I just go back over later with the brush on Gracier and get the teeth, basically, is all that you have to do. So I get to be all kinds of sloppy. Let's see. Does anyone know which Path to Glory book / rules are current? We're going to start up a campaign in our club looking to get into Path to Glory. Well, there is the Path to Glory book itself, which has some stuff for the older factions, and then every new battle tome since that book has come out has had a Path to Glory section in it. So that's all you need. You need to buy the Path to Glory book, and then everyone's battle tome, if it came out since then, will have Path to Glory stuff in there for you. Let's see. Hulkbat over on Twitch. I'm sorry I pronounced that wrong. You think Slaves to Darkness will ever get an update? Yeah, I think they will. When? I don't know. Timetables are out the door now that customs has become a major issue, but what I would say is whatever's going on with Warcry would logically affect them, because they're all chaos. They're not aligned to a chaos god necessarily. So it seems pretty certain that something could. I mean, whether Warcry will like signal in like an actual battle tome, I can't say. I have no idea, but it could certainly like give them some new units, new vitality. Which I'd be all for. Let's see. Although I think we'll maybe see more of them on the tabletop, because that mercenary faction where it's a bunch of chaos warriors, that is pretty darn good. They're not good at fighting, but there are so many armies in this game that just need bodies, and so they provide that. Let's see. Do the contrast work on wet palette? I've heard nothing good about that. I've heard that water messes these things up. But also, if I haven't used a wet palette in the several years that I painted the old-fashioned way, I highly doubt contrast is going to get me to change my mind. Let's see. Would be fun to do Path of Glory. Do need an opponent first, though. Yeah, it usually helps. Path of Glory is an absolute blast. It's actually some of my favorite game memories was when I did that with Rerolling Ones, guys. I do think it's important to have a conversation with your gaming group about what you're going to allow and not allow. Because, for example, like the Seraphon Allegiance ability, like lets him teleport. There's a mission where like one guy has to escape to the other side of the battlefield. Like that would be an automatic win condition. So it's like, let's just not use that one this game. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. Where it's just common sense stuff to make sure everyone has a good time. So yeah. Mixed Stormcast and Chaos Heresy. So I'm going to go on a bit of a thought experiment here about how you can mix Stormcast with the Chaos Marauder War Scroll thing here. And basically the idea is I think that they use the Marauder War Scroll, but they don't necessarily have to be modeled as Marauders. And by that I mean what that war scroll represents is a bunch of barbarian primitive types running around the realms. And so you could model them as like fishermen and be like, hey, there's a big battle coming and the Stormcast can't handle it. And so they called in the citizen militia, which is represented by this thing. Now, narratively, I would not take a war queen because that would get a little harder to reconcile. But you know what I mean? Like you're taking that war scroll because you need rules for a unit, but it is representing something else in your lore, and that's how I would justify it. Because the chaos keyword doesn't matter at all because you're a mercenary. You're not getting any bonuses anyway. Doug, have you paint with the yellow contrast paint? I have used the darker one, the Nasdrag yellow, and I really like it. It covers super well. I don't tend to paint a lot of yellow. But for example, like on the boar guys, where is he? Little drummer boy. Here we go. Yeah, like there's a cloth that comes below the drum over the boar, right in the center there, and that's the Nasdrag yellow. And I mean, I think some contrast paints are a miss in terms of their coverage, but that one was an absolute slam dunk. It just filled in the recesses like it was supposed to and made a nice, strong yellow. And if I wanted to, it'd be really easy to build up a brighter highlight on top of that, but I kind of like the way it looks. Looks dirty. You know, like it's been covered in pig crap all day, which is kind of what it is. Give me 1 second. I know I'm not in the chat right now. Okay. Considering you won't be able to use Warcry models in full-size AOS like Underworlds, I doubt it would affect any battle tomes. There's nothing to say that you can't use, because the kits are that we've seen are fundamentally different than the Underworlds kits in terms of they don't seem to be named characters. You can buy multiples of them. I don't know. I'm not so sure that we won't be able to use them. So there's that. Yeah, it shouldn't affect any purchases. It's whatever. I'd like to be able to use them. If nothing else, I mean, I'm sure many people will sub in those war bands for various Chaos Warriors if there is no War Scroll, so that's fine. I'll still see them. Part of me wants a Necromunda-ish thing. Where, like, you know, you buy like maybe 2 of those boxes for each one of those factions, just so you have a ton of options. Build up your crew. Maybe one day Forge World will have some like extra heads or weapon options or that kind of, you know, fun little bits and bobs. I like that kind of stuff. Gives you reasons to. Let's see. Let's see. Why do we even start this war? Never forgive, never forget. Yeah, there's a. I don't know. I don't know how they're gonna fit the Warcry stuff in. I mean, honestly, because I think someone correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it this weekend that they're supposed to be demoing it for the first time and get their big Warhammer weekend thing? I thought that was like part of the appeal of the weekend. Because honestly, I don't get the big fuss about Warhammer weekend is, but thought that was part of it. But yeah, so some folks will get to try it, and I'll be waiting with bated breath to hear all about it. I'm pretty sure there are other factions. Yeah, there's, I think, 12 or 13 factions total, something like that. There's a whole bunch. Now the question is, how many of those are existing model kits, and how many of them are getting, you know, like revitalized ones or brand new ones? I don't know. I know Daughters of Cain would love it if they got a new kit where they could make hags and heroes and all that kind of stuff without having to buy a bunch of cauldrons and junk. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, my thing's not scrolling down. Here we go. Yeah, so I'm excited about it. I want to play a skirmish game. I was actually really close to pulling the trigger on Shadespire the other night. And I was like, well, you know, I should definitely do the things I wanted to do before with Kill Team. Because the biggest thing is, like, I have definite ideas on how I would want to do a narrative battle report for, like, Kill Team, but man, making a battle report for Shadespire doesn't necessarily sound super fun. So I have to think on that one, how I could make that interesting. Let's see. So as you can see, when it first goes on, it's very like highlightery green. This is the orc skin contrast paint. Very highlightery, and then as it dries, it definitely fades into more of like a normal green with some nice recesses. So it's a weird paint. Got nothing to say besides that. Yes, Warcry is a bunch of stuff. They released an image a while back, which I don't remember where to find, but yeah, it had icons for several factions, and they very explicitly said, no, it's not just Chaos having all the fun. So the place where it's set is kind of Archeon's realm, where, well, so to speak, realm, you know, his space. It's not like an entire mortal realm, but basically it's has a ton of gates going to and from it, and so there's plenty of reason of why several factions would be able to make their way there. Which is exciting. There's just a lot of stuff. I'm really curious as to what will be there, like, because they didn't tell us everything. They gave us like the symbols of the different factions. One, it looks very bone splittery. But who knows? Oh, we got some wild speculation coming in hot and heavy here on the YouTube chat. My guesses for the other factions are... Vampires are a faction? Could be. Bone Splitters, Gloom Spike Kits, Iron Jaws, Daughters of Cain, Idnith, Stormcast, Nighthaunt, and Soulblight. That'd be cool. That'd be cool. At least most of the major players would be included. Touch-ups, make sure to miss anything important. We're looking pretty good. So yeah, like I said, this takes quite a while to dry. Hey Doug, how are the nudists going? They're going good. I got a whole bunch of boars over here that are just drying. Let's see, and these are... The hardest part's done is the skin, for sure. I will tell you what though, like once I get cranking, so I have a whole bin of more boys right here, and once I get cranking on them, this army's going to be done fast and furious. Because honestly, there's not a lot to them. The boars and having to do the riders separately were the hardest part of these. But man, it's just like you slap on the... Because it's mostly skin, which is really the defining feature of them. Because it's mostly skin, you slap on the contrast orc skin, and then it's just a whole bunch of really quick and dirty things to get like the weapons done, and then I just spend more time on the detail, the fun stuff, right? Doing the tattoos and all the weapons in the army. See if I can show you here, because it's definitely the closest picture, but basically it goes from stone to a glowing red rock as if it's like magma heated. It's an effect I've done multiple times on a few things. And so yeah, all of the weapons, like even the hand weapons on the boar riders, all of them have that, and I can do that because it doesn't take a lot of time to do everything else. So yeah. Anyway, answer: nudists are doing quite well. So yeah, I have 4 big stabbas. Right, this makes 4, and 10 boar boy maniacs, 30 more boys, which are the more elite quote-unquote infantry, the guys who do the death ride and all that stuff. And then I have a savage big boss and, oh my gosh, what's the other guy called? A war doc. And I actually kit bashed another war doc, so I have 2 of those. So, yeah. Everything's coming along very, very well. So, what I need to get is a Wargog Prophet. I thought I was going to have one in a trade, but it turns out I was a war doc instead of that, so yeah. How do the boars look without riders? It doesn't seem to be a saddle. Well, wish I had one that wasn't attached to show you. So, they look good. The thing is, and I'll take my brush here and point it to you. So, here we have the boar rider. Right here where the knee is, and right down here where the foot is, there's kind of like little indentations, and so that's where you can glue like the knee and the foot to the boar itself. So if you wanted to have the boar alone, they look fantastic. What I would say is you just put on a little dot of green stuff and then like pick at it until it kind of matches the fur around it. If you do like painting and blending right, no one will notice that there were originally gaps there. So they're very easy to make like standalone, or using them for something else. It's just there is a little divot there. So if you had them with no rider, it would look weird if you didn't do anything else to them. So yeah, seems to be Nighthaunt stuff too. Might give me some cool spoopy boys. Let's see, what else do I need to do right now? The glue is probably still drying on them. Love the bone splitters. 1/3 of my orc sluggas are bone splitters. Oh, that's a fun idea. Yep. Yeah, they just look wild and so much fun. You think bone splitters would work alongside Iron Jaws in a Grand Alliance, or maybe as allies? Let me think on that for a second. The spell lore they have is pretty stinking good. Like being able to make a unit move twice its speed, so like you can make 18-inch move boars. But then again, Iron Jaws have their own Gore Gruntas, right? So I don't know. I mean, they're good. If you're facing a lot of monsters, for sure. The Arrow Boys are a great complement because they have ranged attacks. So if you did Grand Alliance, you would take a lot of Iron Jaws plus maybe a Cunning Ruck just to have some shooting. Don't go full crazy with the shooting, just maybe a unit of 20 even would really help you. So, yeah, I don't know. They could definitely, I mean, they would definitely help, and that's something that Bones players have that Iron Jaws don't, which I think is, when you're looking at like how things fit together, and I think looking at how they complement one another is definitely the right start. So, yeah. Let's see. Thanks, Doug. You're a gentleman, a scholar. I love it. Got any funny names for the Stabbas? I'm working on that. So I have my Wurgog Prophet name, which is Durgrog's the Big Oracle, and Oracle is spelled Oric, L-E. I want to come up with like legendary names for the big Stabbas and write them on there on the sides, I think. So I don't know. I gotta think on that one. I'm gonna reread the book and like take a good break and think about some cool names for him. Question: Hey Doug, as the Lord of Lore Lord. Oh my gosh, are there any reasons you can see for Stormcast to follow Chaos? As a friend of mine really likes kit bashing and wants to do Chaos Stormcast. Well, so it's never happened lore-wise, where a Stormcast has fallen to Chaos 2 that we know of. What I always say, and I'm going to say it again because I said it a couple minutes ago, I was like, I am a yes and person. This whole setting is designed for us to do whatever we want and create the stories we want to tell and make them look awesome. Now, when it comes to conversions, the same rules apply as everything else, which is your opponent has to know what war scroll you're using and what unit is which and make it very clear. But if they wanted to do Chaos Stormcast, I'd be like, yes, absolutely. How can we make that happen? I would point you towards probably some, even just like 40k stuff, because their Chaos Terminators would be about the same scale, I think? Question mark? I don't know. There's some cool bits. So I am a person who says yes. You will never hear me on this channel say, no, you can't do that lore-wise. That's just who I am. And it's what I think the spirit of what GW is trying to achieve with deleting 30 years of history in Fantasy Battle, which they don't really delete it. They just kind of put it in the Age of Myth. But you know what I mean. So yeah. I'm Phase Moose and jumping in here, but you could do overly reforged Stormcast. Yes, they do become more, we'll say, mentally degraded as time goes on. For sure. He wants to use Stormcast rules, but he's an avid Chaos follower. Best idea I had was something because of something in Forbidden Power. So, spoiler alert for Soul Wars, the book Soul Wars. We've seen Nagash take a Stormcast Eternal, break him down to his basis pieces, and reassemble him, where he turned a Stormcast into some kind of Night Haunt thing. There's not really a specific unit attached to what Ferris became. So that's interesting. That it is possible for a Stormcast to be fiddled with, as all mortals are fiddled with by the gods. I mean, yeah, I just say just do whatever. You know, it could be multiple reforgings that make them go insane, where they become over purgy, right? They see fundamentally all of existence as somehow tainted by chaos, and so they just go on a maelstrom, killing, slashing, and all kinds of stuff like that. So he did not become a Knight of Shrouds Librarian of Hope. He is his own thing, because there was a Knight of Shrouds alongside of him. But so as far as like so as far as the lore goes, like there's a few ways you can go. You can go overly reforged Stormcast. You can go what's some other stuff? You know, you can just do tainted reforgings. I mean, when we read Black Talon, what is it? First Mark. She was affected by a sorcerer in the first in the prologue of the book, and then she was super worried throughout the rest of it that whatever like curse he put on her, like some kind of tainting of his soul, of her soul would carry on through reforging. So there does seem to be some precedent for like something affects you, you die, and it can carry with you. So maybe it's like chaos influences just being compounded over and over again. So there's tons of reasons. I say do whatever you want. As long as the models look dope, which there's no reason they can't because GW has so many cool chaos bits, absolutely have a blast. That's my official 2+ tough stance. Do whatever you want, make it look cool. So yeah, it's let's see. I'm just looking for a wash to put on the shrubs here. Yeah, I mean, so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to shut down your idea, Librarian Hope. So, Knight of Shrouds is probably the closest approximation, but in the book, they keep calling him the Death Lord. Death Lord, Death Lord, Death Lord. And so, it is, I think, narratively, because here's the thing, I don't think Soul Wars came out in time for the naming conventions and the war scrolls for the actual units, because there was a few things that I talked about with Kenzie. We did the book review together, where it's like, you're calling this something different, but you mean evocators from your description. You're just like, so the names weren't quite locked in stone when Josh Reynolds cranked out the book, which makes sense in terms of like, you know, how they produce and all that stuff like that, how they synchronize the novels with their model and war scroll production. So I don't know, whatever. Let's do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. Live, laugh, love. Okay. We'll do some. Let's try blue. I'm gonna try the blue on something. If you did Zinch, you also use Carrick shields or Zangor shields. Oh yeah. Yeah. Trying to think. Stormcaster are significantly taller than the old Chaos Terminators. Yeah, but didn't they make a new one? I'm just curious. I don't know. Looks like my paint spilled a smidge right there. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of cool ways to go, and I think it could all be quite a bit of fun. Let's see. Thinking on my Knight of Shrouds, I'm considering making mine the reborn form of Alcadizar, the great back to get revenge on Nagash. I am not familiar with who that is, but that's cool. Maybe I got an idea, run with it. Right now I'm just trying out a bunch of different washes to see which ones I like. So for the one guy I did do, so like Vince's suggestion was wash the shrubs because it gives them a nice deep shadow, and then dry brush some different colors on top of them. And so I did that with a red wash to kind of make it match the base a little bit more, but it kind of just like faded into the base so aggressively that like you couldn't even really tell that there was a wash on it. So that is what I am going for right now. Okay. I'm a phase. My understanding is that Death Lord is a rank. It's a faction in the game with Arcane and stuff, so calling him a Death Lord might be like, arise my champion. No, that's true. It's true. They also, like, they gave him a very specific set of armor. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not sure. It's weird. I'm not sure how because like, it's different than like when they made like the narrative book that went along with Dark Imperium, because a lot of those, like, there's very few new units. Like the Intercessor stuff all existed, the Primera stuff all existed, like, or it was all new, but the Death Guard stuff all, for the most part, existed way along previously. So, you know, it's like, what's that cycle of, like, the writer has to use names and words to describe things, but then all of a sudden the War Scrolls come out and are totally different. So I have no idea. Let's see. Let's try Reichland Flesh. I won't do that. Let's try this one. So, yeah. I just realized the music stopped playing. And let's do one more. Let's do no. Was the final living king before the Tomb Kings became aware. Cool. Let's see. Dr. Zero, should I start putting together some more models? Kinnerai, the Cauldron of Blood, or should I wait? It's getting kind of late. It's up to you, my friend. I don't know where you are or what time it is. For me, it's 4:12. Oh, that's funny. Okay. These are a few good ideas for the bases. Where's that? Here's the guy with a red. Okay, friends. Well, it has been about an hour and a half. Oh, gosh, just past midnight. Woo! It's been about an hour and a half. I'm going to go ahead and hop off just because everything needs to dry. At this point, I'm just testing to see what washes I like with the base more. So there's not a whole lot going on. And I will be back on, maybe I'll be back on tonight, later tonight, while everyone in Europe is asleep and everyone in the US is like, let's hang out. And I might visit with you all then. Until then, I'm going to work on videos. Hey, fun fact, if you guys want a little preview what's coming next week, I am diving into the lore of Shadespire. So, talking about the city itself, how it got to where it is, and all that kind of jazz. So, hope you all enjoy that. So, if I don't see you tonight, I will catch you all Monday morning, and I will see you then. Till then, happy wargaming.